Hey, it's Mike. Thanks for tuning back in. It is Sunday, down to a day and a half left of my vacation. Happy New Year, guys. Really appreciate that you guys have stuck around with me for all year, and now we're into 2023. I'm going to be talking about what may be counterfeit cards in specific slabs, but I want to start off with comment of the week. I'm going to start doing a comment of the week where I select the best comment. It could be funny. This one's funny this week's, but it could be just something that's somebody adds something really valuable to the conversation, something interesting, helpful, whatever it is. This week's comment of the week comes to you from Scott, who responds to the fact that I had a great blaster. He says, "You got the Backyard Breaks blaster allocation of the week, for the week." So thanks, Scott, for that. That made me laugh, thinking that Backyard Breaks is getting blasters. I don't know. I don't really follow Backyard Breaks, but I know the story about them, basically getting every chase card. And they just got a Napoleon autograph this weekend. It's pretty crazy, the stuff that they pull. I don't know how legit it is. So let's talk about Gem Grading Inc. This was one of those side grading companies about 20 years ago. I don't know if they're still grading cards. I wasn't able to find out much about them. But first, the card that I'm going to be looking at specifically is the 2000 Bowman Chrome Refractor Tom Brady, number 236 of that set. It is important to know that PSA has only graded this card as a 10 7 times, and yet somehow Gem Grading has graded the card a 10 hundreds, if not thousands of times. Interesting, right? It's almost like they got the Backyard Breaks allocation of 10 level Brady rookie refractors. So I did a deep dive into this card and a little bit of a deep dive into the company. In 2004, their website had a declaration that said, authentication is not guaranteed on their slabs, on their cards that they've graded. And then in an article, the owner said that in relation to that claim, he said things do happen, which is why he had to put that on his website. Things do happen. That's very true. So in 2007, Sports Collectors Digest did an investigation where they actually were buying the gem grading cards off of eBay, and about 25% of them came back as fake, counterfeit cards, despite them being sold as legitimate cards. So some of them were real, but imagine buying PSA slabs or BGS or CSG or SGC and having 25% of them be counterfeit. That's pretty amazing. So the owner, Timothy Lorber, defended himself and his company at that time back in 2007, saying that he believed that there was a ring, a counterfeit ring essentially, that was using his slabs and putting in counterfeit cards into them and selling them. He had nothing to do with it, but it's really interesting. And they found 5 sellers that were consistently selling the cards. And today, I found one seller that is very consistently selling the card without clearly calling them reprints. Now, there are some sellers out there who are putting RP in the title, some that are putting reprint right at the front of the title, and that's one thing, right? Those are selling for $75. The ones with RP in the title are selling in the $400 to $500 range, but the ones that this seller is selling are selling for thousands and thousands of dollars. Some of them in the low thousands, but I found one that sold for $7,300, another that sold for $8,900. Dozens of 10s of this card have sold recently. Dozens of them in the gem grading slab, graded a 10. Where are all these cards coming from? If PSA is only graded 10, who's mailing their amazing cards to gem grading? Or who did in the past? It makes no sense to me unless they're all counterfeit. And of course, no seller is going to put counterfeit in the title of their sale. They put RP or reprint or nothing at all and hope that nobody catches on. Now, this person who is not putting that in there does have one piece of negative feedback out of a very small number of actual sales that they've done, where the feedback says selling counterfeit card as legit. So their feedback percentage is low because they don't have a lot of sales with feedback. A lot of those sales that they have made for thousands and thousands of dollars have come in the last 60 days or so. So I think they're trying to, if they are counterfeit, and I'm not saying that they are, but I think that they're trying to sell them all quickly, and then they'll switch to another account because it appears that they're just constantly switching. Now, why would somebody buy? Why would I buy these cards? Well, I wouldn't, first of all, but somebody who is an investor type of person or a flipper might think, well, the eBay authenticity guarantee will protect me from this, which seems to be a perfectly reasonable expectation of eBay's authenticity guarantee when you've got the listing and at the very top it has the green check and it says eBay authenticity guaranteed. And you think, oh, well, I can risk spending $5,000 on this card that's worth 6 figures if eBay's authenticity guarantee, which I believe is, if it's in a slab, it goes to PSA, then they're going to catch it and protect me and I'll get my money back. But that's not the case. eBay's authenticity guarantee only protects you if the seller accepts returns. If the seller doesn't accept returns, then they're basically just going to say, this is not authentic and now it's yours. That's my understanding of it. Correct me if I'm wrong. I did a little research on this. But additionally, one of these sales, in the description, it actually says, you must note that PSA, or that only PSA, BGS, CSG, and SGC slabs are graded by eBay's authenticity guarantee or authenticated. Anything else isn't going to get authenticated by them and won't get returned to the seller. You are stuck with it. It's pretty crazy. It is a very much a false sense of security if you see that authenticity guarantee and you're not actually protected. And all of these are final sales. They are all sellers who will not accept returns. There's one of these right now that's live. It's at $1,800 with 1 day and 9 hours remaining. By the time I post this, it'll probably be about a day remaining because I'll post it later today. But there are dozens of these cards that are either for sale now or have sold very recently. Dozens of them, maybe even hundreds of them. It's fascinating to me. How do they make these cards? How do you counterfeit these cards in a way that makes it believable enough? And maybe people just aren't paying attention. Like I found this Barry Bonds card in gem grading 10 that's clearly trimmed, very clearly trimmed. A BGS 9 in this card recently sold for $37,000, $38,000. I didn't find a PSA 10, but the PSA 9 just sold in July for $75,000. So you can see the allure of these alleged gem grading 10s that are selling for $2,000 to $8,000. If you think, well, this one might be legitimate, and I'm going to crack it and send it to PSA and hope that it comes back a 9 or a 10. But I just, the risk. And a lot of these eBay sellers have, really good feedback percent ratings because they go in and they purchase a bunch of cards before, and their feedback rating goes up because they purchase, and then they start selling off the backs of that positive feedback percentage. And we just need to be really careful when we're buying from sellers with like under 100 feedback. Go in, check their seller feedback, because a lot of these guys with under 100 have just started selling after collecting some positive feedback from purchases. For what it's worth, the Sports Card Investor has, I did a search for 2000 Bowman Chrome Tom Brady Refractor, and Sports Card Investor was one of the top items in there. And I don't have a subscription to Market Movers or whatever their app is, but SCI seems to have these as legitimate sales, and I'm not familiar with their interface very well, but PSA 10 is clearly selected as a filter, and it's showing one of these gem grade 10 sales as $1,247 as the most recent sale as a PSA 10, and that's factoring into the value on Sports Card Investor. But maybe I misunderstand how it works. Certainly possible. Back in this Sports Collectors Digest investigation, they found that these same sellers who were selling all these cards were also selling Capital Grading counterfeits and Foremost Grading Authority counterfeits at the same time. And they were just doing the same thing. You know, they had 5 accounts and they would sell a bunch and they would be found out, and then they would open new accounts and they would make purchases and then they would start selling. Gem grading slabs were also used to put star basketball cards, counterfeit star basketball cards in years ago. I don't know if they still are, but that's another big one that's counterfeited a lot. There just weren't that many made, and somehow a lot of them end up in gem grading slabs. So be very careful out there. It is such a dangerous place for buyers of high-end cards. People like me who would love to have the high-end cards but can't afford them, and then you see, oh wow, this card is $500 or $3,000. Not that I have $3,000 to spend on one card, but $3,000, and it's actually potentially a $75,000 card. It could be worth that risk, and it's not. Don't do it. If it seems too good to be true, it is. So, if you're new here, I do daily sports card content. Boop that subscribe button. I really appreciate you guys watching. I will be back tomorrow. I'm hoping to do a TTM recap video for 2022. I need to find all my cards. I have a couple that I'm not quite sure what I did with, but I did a lot of TTM last year, my first year doing TTM, so I'd love to do a recap video. All right, thanks very much for watching. Have a great weekend.